still want you to load up weight and act crazy occasionally. But most of your training, 95% of your training should look like you know how to lift. 95% of your training, at the very least, should look like you know how to lift. And as you become more skilled and as you become more strongerist, that percentage will be better and better and better to the point where somebody's like, how did you just do that? Now you have 98% of your max, 100% of your max, and you're doing it with flawless technique and flawless effort, because from the beginning, during all your warm-up sets, during all the multiple sets and multiple reps that your coach gave you, on every rep, every single time, you're trying to do it perfectly. And not only that, you're filming it, being hyper-critical of it every single time. Every rep and every set, all the time, forever, gets coached no matter what. No matter how you have to do that, every rep of every set gets coached no matter what. Try to find somebody in your circle that can watch you, that can help you. Try to help them, because you're going to learn a lot more by trying to help somebody else. Investing your time in somebody else is a really wise decision and will help you in a million different ways. Part of the reason why we have a free seminar here today.
That's a pretty crazy concept that, you know, if you do the rep perfectly every time, that weights will go up and you won't get hurt.
Yeah, getting hurt is going to reduce all of us to nothing, right? It's going to reduce all of us to zero. So it doesn't matter how big and bad you are. If you get injured, you can't do much of anything.
Hey, Ed, how many reps did you miss when you were on your way to breaking the all-time world record total?
None.
What? What? Zero?
Zero.
Who has gone through a training cycle and missed 0 weights, 0 reps? You're lying.
You don't listen.
Say it one more time. You missed 0 reps.
The whole training cycle.
The whole training cycle. Let that sink in. Let that think about how you're going to approach your next training cycle.
I'd write my training cycle down 12 weeks, let's say. I'd write it down 20 times till I got every single number, set, rep right, including all my assistance work.
That was really hard because I was like in stone and shit back then, right?
Pretty much.
That's why you couldn't miss any reps. Couldn't cross that shit out.
Hey guys, try to think about picking up points. You know, try to think about you're trying to get a 10 out of 10 score on your lift every single time you do it. Whether it's 135 or it's 775 or whatever the weight is, you're trying to get a perfect score. You're trying to get a perfect 10 on every single lift that you do. And when you're not getting that, it doesn't help that you're following 531 or something by Chad Wesley Smith or something that we share here at SuperTraining. The programming at that point can be thrown out the window because your lifts are too shitty. You're not going to be able to recover from the workouts because your efficiency is not good. You're also going to end up with injury. So you really have to make sure that you're getting these exercises done the right way. Simply just slowing down some of your lifts and using less weight is a great way to do it, because as I mentioned earlier, the only thing you're thinking about with those heavy weights is you're just thinking about how not to die. And you can't really concentrate on activating your glutes or getting your hamstrings involved. You can't really think about these other things when you're in the middle of trying to pick up 100% of your max. I'm going to have Ed talk you guys through some sumo deadlifting.
I'll do it. Same thing. When I had my first hip replacement, I didn't squat or deadlift for 2.5 years. When I came back to do it again, everything was exactly the same. I never forgot. So find your right spot. I kind of find my right spot by wiggling my body until I feel it lock in. I will squat down to the bar, grab the bar, do the same thing that I did in the conventional, pull against the bar, lock my shoulders, pick my chest up, but what I do is I wiggle in and move my hips closer to the bar. Then the angle is perfect. It's not this, then this. If I start here and I'm over the bar, it's going to be a pull. And see how high my hips are? How can I lock out a heavy weight that way? You can't. But just by picking your chest up and getting your hips tighter, watch my knees and watch my positioning. See the position change? So why not start like that? So as I grab the bar, I pull the slack out, pull my body into the bar, get my chest up, lock my back, and I open up that and get my hips closer to the bar.
Who in
That's
here
efficiency.
who in here has some really awful mobility? Let's get this guy with the slingshot hat on to come on up.
Wow, it's the jacked one. Wait for the.
So let's have you do a sumo deadlift.
I'll make sure I call him.
Just do your best with picking the weight up and trying to keep your back flat.
Point your toes out a lot more.
Let's,
you don't have to widen your
stance.
stance.
Your wallet out of there.
You don't have to widen your stance. Just point your toes out. Hey, stand up. Now, as you go down, open up your taint. There you go. Now grab the bar.
It's way better already.
Pull your hips closer to the bar. That means you got to open this up and get your chest up. There you go. Now push and pull it in.
He's in a pretty good position right there.
There you go.
Hands should be a little wider. You want to try to capture at least some of the knurling there. Usually your grip is going to just fall in line with wherever your shoulders are. So now let's have you go down a lot slower, which we were promoting earlier.
And keep your groin open as you go down.
And I want you to go down really slow, like 8-10 seconds. Go down really slow.
Keep your abs tight. Open up your groin.
Keep pushing
open
back.
Open up,
keep pushing
open up,
out.
open
keep
up,
pushing
open
out,
up.
out. Oh, you fell a little bit. Let's get it perfect. That was not perfect. Let's get it perfect.
Stay tight all the way down. It's
Don't
not as
fall.
easy that way, is it?
Long arms.
Open it.
There we go. There we
Stay
go.
tight,
There we go.
Stay tight.
Good. Reverse it.
Now go.
Great.
Nice.
There you go. So look, we had him up here doing a handful of lifts, right? He did one perfect rep. You saw how hard it was. It's 135 pounds. It's not just him. It's hard for me too. This shit is really difficult. It's hard to execute the right way. Yeah, he's poking at his hip right now because his hip is like, what the fuck did you just do to me?
I
never felt anything like that.
He used muscles that he never used before. Hey, Jess.
Yep. Yes.
How many reps, steps, whatever, does it take to change a bad motor pattern?
10,000. I'm not kidding.
You got a lot of reps to do, don't you?
Yeah.
But it's not a lot of reps. It's a lot of perfect reps. That's why you take your time. But once you get there, boom.
Show us how you do it, Eddie. Try not to fart.
I am on the vertical diet. See how it opens? It opens. It opens. I grab the bar. I don't just get tight from here. I pull my body up and tighter.
Show us that again. Guys, if you kind of can notice from the side, I know some of you can't really see this, but when you have your hands on the bar, when he puts his hands on the bar, there's quite a bit of space right here. And when he locks it in, there's no space. He gets that covered. I can't get my hand through there anymore. It's because he created a lot more tightness.
And my lats are locked in from my lower back all the way up through.
Shoulders aren't pinched up.
They're not up. I pull them back down.
They're down to make the arms nice and long and to keep the lats tight. You're trying to actually take that barbell. There we go, Eddie. We're trying to actually take that barbell and bend it around our body and turn it into a trap bar deadlift, if you can kind of envision that. Typically on a sumo deadlift too, there's different rules for different people, but in general, we want to try to have the knees be straight up, your shin angle be straight up and down. Where on a conventional deadlift, a lot of times we're going to see the knees coming forward a little bit more. And a lot of times you actually want the knees a little bit forward of the bar just to break the inertia, get that weight moving off the ground. You can see the knees are forward of the bar. And you actually saw...
So if you stop here, this is your position. It's a push and pull it in.
Push where? Pushing into the floor?
Yeah. Push your legs. This stays up, and you use your hips. Squeeze your butt. But you have to keep pushing the weight, or else what will happen is when you get here, if all you do is use your hips, you go like this. So you got to keep pushing your legs. By pushing your legs and pulling, just like in the squat, it enables the hips to keep going forward to utilize them. Or else when you come up like this and you just go to use your hips, you can't use your legs anymore and they don't push, and look what happens.
More questions?
Go ahead.
Do you use stiff bar pulling and getting ready for a meet at all, or you try to keep it all with the deadlift bar?
Whatever bar you got to use in a contest, that's what you use. You got to get used to it. Using a stiff bar for all those years made me a lot more explosive. It taught me how to get tighter. But if I don't know how to use a deadlift bar, I'm screwed when I go to a meet.
So you'll have a hard time if you're only training with the stiff bar and then you're competing with the deadlift bar.
You're going to have a harder time because you got to get used to it. She had a question. You're on the spot now.
B12, iron, magnesium, and CoQ10.
Hi, so I'm
and you go
someone
on, the list
who
goes on.
does deadlifts. I finally got to one plate. My question is there the correct way to how far you keep your legs apart? Or?
Well, since you just started,
Yeah.
you
And I'm
don't really
sure-
know, so you're in a territory where keep working it and do more and more reps.
Okay.
Because you don't really know, because you don't have everything developed yet either,
Yeah.
so you're not going to know. So it's like, what feels the most comfortable?
Okay.
That doesn't make you have bad form.
Okay.
Kelly Surratt uses a phrase, if it looks sketchy, it probably is. So, we all have these awesome phones in our pockets. So if you're videotaping yourself, you're going to be able to see what you look like. So if you're doing a sumo deadlift and your knees are further in than where your feet are, it's going to look mildly like a train wreck. So, I mean, until you develop, and if you're one of those people who you just can do that, and those are some real, outliers, a good rule of thumb to kind of at least start with is to be able to articulate your knee over your foot, right? Can everyone kind of understand that? Your knee should kind of be over your foot, not in. If it goes out, that's okay, and you probably have a little bit room to push a little bit, move your feet out a little bit wider, but you don't have to. Just because you can and you have that mobility doesn't necessarily mean it's always a good thing. So as long as you're getting good leg drive off the floor, your knee is staying kind of over kind of the ball of your foot, if you will, that's going to be a good place to start from there.
Just because you can doesn't mean that you should. He reminded me of that quote because he kind of said it in that last sentence that he threw together there. But that's a really important point for a lot of you guys. Just because you can doesn't mean that you should. You're in the middle of a bench session and other people want to go up and weight. I know it's exciting. Do your absolute best to stay in your lane and to focus in on yourself. I've asked Ed before, how were you able to continue to be so successful when you were already successful? You deadlift 850 at 198.
859.
You deadlift 859 at 198, almost kind of like, what do you care anymore? Obviously, you always want to do better, but it is kind of hard sometimes. We have a tendency to look at what other people are doing. And it could have been very easy for him to be like, oh, that guy only pulled 800, so I'll just kind of continue to lift these weights and win these meets this way. But again, he was beating people by 100 pounds, 200 pounds, 300 pounds, 400 pounds, because he was competing with Ed Coan. He was competing against himself. Any other questions? What do you got back there with the tattoos and the hat? You hand this microphone back?
Just curious as to your opinion on hook grip. I've heard positives and negatives. Do you guys use it? Have
If
utilized
you
it?
try it and you like it, use it.
There's been kind of a new wave of people using hook grip a lot, and I think the reason is there's been some really high-level lifters having some great success with hook grip. But until probably the past year, there had only been 2 lifts done hook grip over 800 pounds. And then we have Kaler coming in, and then we have, Bridgeford and everybody, and then Yuri starts to come along. But what you guys got to realize is these people are already way, way, way on the outliers of things. They're not great deadlifters because they hook grip. They're just great fucking deadlifters, period. Okay, now it's okay to go ahead and try and see what they're doing and pick up some cues and steal some stuff from them. But just because you hook grip does not mean that you're going to deadlift 900 pounds. It's horribly painful, but if you can stand it in the long run, it might end up being better for you as far as, kind of from a balance standpoint from your upper body and your shoulders, but it's not going to necessarily make the biggest difference. Mark tried it for a while. He ended up working up to, I think, like a 675, but he ended up having to stop because his hands hurt so bad that it started to negatively affect his bench. So is it worth it to hook grip because you think it's going to push your deadlift up, but now it's starting to hurt your bench? As powerlifters, we got 3 lifts to play with, and we got to kind of balance these things up and see what's going to add up to the biggest total. So while it might be, the hot, newest, sexy thing to hook grip and ruin your thumbs for the rest of your lives, that's fine if you want to do it. But you got to realize that the people who are doing it and the people who are most successful aren't there because of the hook grip.
Nsima's used a hook grip for the last about 2 years or so, and he's, as I mentioned earlier, pulled a 755 deadlift. It feels very comfortable to him, and it's something he adapted to, but it did take time. Some people will tell you it takes a year, and it just shows you sometimes the amount of dedication some of this stuff takes. How long does it take to get used to a diet? Sometimes it might take a year. I mean, legitimately. Sometimes you may not lose weight for 2 months, but in the grand scheme of things, the time commitment is actually very small when you start to get closer and closer to your goals. You start to get closer and closer to your dreams. These are things that you already set out to do. These are things that are in your mind and on your mind. And we have a tendency to wake up the next day and our dreams, our hopes and dreams are gone. They're shot. You had a conversation with yourself, the way I do, the night before, and you wake up the next day and you're already thinking about 10 different things that are pulling you away from your goal. So while it may seem like, I don't know about that, it takes a while. Well, there's no rule that says that you have to do it a particular way. There's a lot of different ways that you can do these things. And maybe for you, hook grip, different position on a squat, working on your sumo deadlift, maybe these are things you work on along with everything else that you're doing so that you're practicing it and so that you're constantly getting better at it. And when you want to rely on it, it's still there. Another question? What do we got here with the ST shirt?
Wait. I want to know if you guys had any experience with like performance anxiety before like heavy compounds like squat or a deadlift. More specifically, like in training and not so much like in a meet.
No, I think there's always going to be some type of apprehension when you're going for a hard weight or hard set. But everything I did built upon 1 week at a time, where what I did this week is building upon what I know I can do next week. So that part of it is doubtful already. As far as there's no doubt in my mind, I'm not going to have that shit going on in my head because I know I can do it already based on the week before.
Yeah.
And the week after that is based on that week. So as long as your routine is set up where it's doable week by week, you really shouldn't have a problem. And because as you build week to week, you build confidence all the time. It's not like, well, I've decided today that I'm going to use this technique to get more mental confidence, and that's it. It doesn't happen that way. It's by repetitively do it over and over and doing it the right way and making your lifts. You won't build any confidence by missing your lifts.
Yeah. So through more experience,
repetitive,
and how my body
positive
works
reinforcement.
And stuff, I should be able to deal with that.
Yeah.
Thanks, boss.
For performance anxiety, you'll have to ask my wife. I would say no. She'd probably tell you otherwise. Not everybody wants to be in the limelight. Not everybody wants to be in front of a lot of people. I was that person. I did not have the ability to speak in front of one person, much less an entire room of a lot of people. And I still actually, to this day, get very nervous before I do certain things. But it's not negative. It's not a negative nervousness. It's excitement. And try to turn that into happiness. Try to turn that into being excited about what you're about to do. When I first did my 1,000-pound squat, I started smiling on the way up. And on the way down, I was just so excited because I was like, I'm going to smash this weight. I've been working for this for fucking 10 years. And right now, it's finally going to happen. Just everything lined up, and it felt good as I was coming out of the bottom. But was I scared going into it? 100%. Yeah, I was very, very intimidated by the weight, didn't know what was going to happen, but you train really hard, and you end up becoming responsible for the results that you have on the platform. If you put in the work, then the results are going to happen. If you put in the work, the results are going to happen. They don't always happen right away, and they don't always happen the way that you want. But there will be results, there will be learning experiences that come from it every single time. And so try to, when you have anxiety about something like that, you can also try to think about, just stop yourself for a second and think about what is making that happen. It could be simple. I believe in a lot of self-talk. It could be as simple as, why didn't I like that person's post? It's like someone took a shit in your Fruit Loops or something, right? What made you feel that way? Why are you not liking that person's post? As silly as some of these things are all things you have to be evaluating all the time. Otherwise, you probably shouldn't be on social media, because maybe it's causing you a lot of anxiety. You have to kind of question and wonder, why are these things happening? Why would I be jealous of Ed starting a business and being real successful? I got to check myself for a minute. I'd have to sit here for a second and analyze it. No, that's wrong. He's my bud. I should be with him rather than against him.
You could draw inspiration from it, but you can't be that person because you're not.
Another question? Strong shirt.
Yeah, my question's on grip, not hook grip, but grip. So when I grab the bar, I use a mixed grip, and I use it on my calluses, so I'm grabbing the bar up here. Mm-hmm. I noticed you got it a bit lower on your sumo. What is it?
Asking Ed a hand question.
You're going to get to see Ed Coan's hand.
The easiest thing in the world.
That's why.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Look at his fist.
That was
Watch
a
this.
great answer.
It's like a whole knuckle and then some, more than one. Big hands, big feet, big
Head.
big personality. Another question right here with the SuperTraining shirt.
Yeah, I just had a quick question, similar to using the slingshot like on bench to get some assistance with that. Do you ever use like deficit deadlifts or block pulls? How much benefit do you get out of those?
Yeah, use any and all. Utilize these exercises as weapons and use them as needed. Jesse, why would we use a block pull?
Well, block pull is just to address a weakness, to try and get your hips and hamstrings up to par if they're kind of lagging behind. A deficit deadlift is something that you would want to use if, again, you're kind of having trouble getting the weight off the floor, if you're not really kind of feeling that leg drive. I have a lifter who I would actually, very similar kind of the way that Stan did it, where we would have her warm up on a deficit even before she went out to lift on the platform. It just got her in a good mindset, and it forced her to feel what we were trying to get her to understand and articulate as she kind of went through the lift. After a while, we were able to take that out, and she understood leg drive from the bottom. So those are kind of tools that you have there to kind of help you feel something or correct something or kind of strengthen something.
Yeah, there's so many different ones that to address your weak point that's particular to you. You got so many different kinds of squats, deadlifts, benches that you can utilize, that as long as it transfers over, then you do it. You don't do it because someone else is doing it. You analyze yourself, your form, and where do I suck at?
When it comes to a block pull, we utilize them here at SuperTraining by, when people struggle with their mobility, we've utilized a box squat, we've utilized block pulls, we utilize deficit pull. Deficit pull, you're getting more range of motion. Block pull, you're getting shorter range of motion. But the exercises actually work out quite differently than the way that you may think. A block pull can actually teach you to be in a better position. I'm not talking about being 6-7 inches off the ground or anything like that, but having the weight elevated on a mat or two mats or even just a bumper plate or something like that, you can be, for some of you that struggle with your mobility, be in a stronger, better, tighter position. And you can go through those reps and sets in a better, stronger position. Over a period of time, you can start to lower the weight down. That's something that a lot of us in here have used with a lot of success. So those are some things to think about. A deficit pull, a lot of times you're thinking it's going to build up a lot of speed and power and explosives off the floor. It can, but it can actually also help your grip because you're holding on to the weight longer. The range of motion is longer, and so therefore it's going to also help your time under tension, which can also help with your lockout. So a lot of these movements are a good idea to at least try, and maybe they're not your main movement. Maybe you like doing the regular deadlift often. That's fine. But try some of these things out after the main movement. Ed, in his training, it was always deadlifts, stiff leg deadlifts, and then bent over rows in every workout for 173 years in a row.
Close.
But he always tried to build upon it. Guys, I think the best thing for us to do right now is for us to take a little break. Let's break for about 15 minutes, and then I think we will we'll reconvene, answer some questions. I know a lot of you guys have questions on nutrition and probably just some offshoot questions. We also got to get Mr. Coan to the airport in a timely manner. What time you got to get to the airport?
Flight's at 3:50.
Okay. So we still have a little bit of time. So let's only break, and when I say for about 5 minutes, it may turn into 10. But let's break for about 5 minutes. There's Quest Nutrition has given us protein bars and cookies that are here for free for you guys, along with some waters and stuff like that.